Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss another pattern that is much used in the industry as well as a design pattern that can come handy, and that pattern is the decorator pattern. Maybe it will take some time to get used to, but let us discuss it anyway. As always, we are going to take a particular problem and then we will find a solution to that particular problem. Again, when we discuss these object-oriented solutions and when we introduce these design patterns, you should keep in mind why these design patterns exist in the first place. Because often with time, there is always a change that we need to anticipate. When that change inevitably comes, we need to cope with that particular change with minimal disruption. That means we need not or shouldn't introduce any maintenance nightmare in the code so that it is easy for us when we code it in the first place, and anybody who is to come next after us, he is going to look at this code and should do the maintenance or customization, shouldn't be bogged down by the complexity of the code. That's all we think of when we design an application. Again, that's the main reason of the existence of these design patterns. So the decorator pattern. The problem that we are facing here, we are building a house, and of course this house or a home have different rooms. So these rooms should be decorated in a particular way. For example, the living room should have a particular kind of decoration, and so does the study room or the kitchen. What I meant to say here is that there is a particular aesthetics that we apply to each of these rooms. For example, the living room should be decorated in such a way that when the guests arrive, they should be they should feel welcomed. Um, if it is a study room, then that room shouldn't be cluttered with unnecessary material. It should be well lit. The atmosphere should be such that because it is a study room, somebody is going to learn something. That learning should come easily to them. They should be able to concentrate. So the aesthetics that we are going to build. So we call that we are going to decorate these rooms based on the type of room that we are going to decorate. So the problem that we are trying to address is when the customer starts decorating their rooms, the different rooms, based on the type of decorators he needs, what will be the cost incurred by the customer? That's the ultimate aim of this particular exercise. Meaning, when the living room is decorated with specific pieces of furniture or electrical equipment or some decorator items, what will be the cost incurred by the customer? That's what we are trying to find out using the decorator pattern. So let us start coding. First, we will code the base class. Then we will have a short discussion on what decoration means in object-oriented terms, and then we will take it from there. So first, the base class. What we just did was to create a base class called room, which is defined as an abstract class because we have one abstract method called cost. If you remember our discussion, the ultimate aim is to decorate the different rooms and get an estimated cost of decorating that particular room. That's what this cost method is for. Because it is an abstract class, it will be overridden by or it has to be implemented by the other classes. There is also a description property that describes what is the type of object. Here in this case, because it is the base class, we are just giving it as an unknown room. The next thing that we are going to do, we will just take two rooms, maybe one living room and a study room that is going to inherit from this particular room. So let us complete that particular coding next. We have created two rooms. One is the living room and the second thing is the study room. So you can see both extends from the base room class. And of course, we have constructors is provided for each of these classes with a description of the kind of room. Also, we have overridden the cost and we have given some cost. Again, we are keeping the discussion simple, so it is just a long value. We are not complicating things further. So, we have built the rooms. Now it is time to decorate the rooms. So, how are we going to do that? Let us assume that we have created an instance of the living room. Our job is to decorate this living room with a sofa. So, in technical or coding terms, we create an instance of the sofa and pass the living room instance into the constructor of the sofa. This is what is known as wrapping the instance. So the decorator pattern works by wrapping one instance with another. In this case, we are going to wrap the living room with the sofa instance. And again, this pattern will go further. Suppose we have already added the sofa instance and we want to add something else, which is another object to decorate the living room. We pass this new instance, that is the sofa instance, that is already wrapped with the living room instance, and pass that particular instance into the new decorator constructor. Again, explanation is a little bit tough. Let us see that in code. One more requirement with the decorator pattern is the object that we are going to decorate as well as the decorator. Both should be of the same type. We have already seen how we are going to decorate by wrapping the objects. The other requirement is that both the wrapped object and the wrapper should be of the same type. Why this requirement will be understood by looking at the code. So let us complete the code and then we will take it from there. Let us create a decorator class. Based on the theory that we have learned, what should be the type of the decorator? The type of the decorator should be the same type as the object that we are decorating. So what we are going to do, I'm going to create a package called decorators. So first what we are going to do, we are going to create a decorator. So let me create a room decorator. And what should be the type? The type is also going to be of the type room. And then what we are going to do, of course, this is going to be an abstract class. So let me create an abstract and then override the get description. And again, we are not going to implement it here. We are going to keep it as abstract. So let me just give it as abstract like so. Again, reiterating what we are trying to do, we are creating a decorator to a base type for the decorator. the decorator, and the decorator object should be of the same type. So we are extending from the room, and we are creating is an abstract class with all the implementations. We are asking the implementations to implement the get description. Already there is a cost method that's also abstract from the room. So the implementation of the room decorators have to implement both the cost as well as the description method. So let us get along with creating some decorators. Let us create the first decorator, that is the sofa decorator. So sofa is the decorator. It is going to extend from room decorator. This room decorator, as we know, has to implement two methods, the get description from the room decorator. Again, both the methods are from the room base class, and also the cost. So, but what is the theory that we learned? When we create or we need to use a decorator, what are we trying to decorate here? We are trying to decorate a living room, which is of type room. And we are going to decorate that living room with a sofa. What we learned, for example, we are going to create, or maybe let me create a main class so that we can see what is happening. So with a static main method, what we are going to do, first we have a living room, and then let us create an instance variable for that living room. The living room is of type room. This is the object that we are going to decorate with what? With a sofa. So how do we do decoration? We wrap it. So first we create a sofa instance like so, and then we pass in that particular living room as an argument. But of course, as of now, there is a compiler error because we don't have a constructor like so. So we have created the sofa. Means what? It should be composed of type room, and it should have a constructor with the type room like so. See, now that particular error will go because we have this particular sofa room cannot resolve, so we have to import it. I think we haven't imported. Yeah. So what we are trying to do, we are composing. The design principle, we favor composition over inheritance. But in this decorator pattern, we are doing both. We are inheriting from the base class room. We can see that this is the base class, and we have the living room as well as the study room, both inheriting. So we are inheriting, and the reason will be obvious once we complete the code. And now we are adding behavior. So we have created a decorator, and one of the design thing here is that the decorator and the object to be decorated has to be of the same type. So we created a room decorator that is of the type room, and we are creating one decorator called sofa here. And so in this particular sofa, we are composing another room as an attribute, and we have created a constructor. So when we create a sofa, that's what we have done here. When we created this sofa, we are decorating this living room by wrapping that particular living room inside this particular sofa. Again, let's create a reference variable for this type. So it has to be let it be decorator. Let it be decorator, and the type should be room decorator. Let us always try to code it to an interface, not an implementation. That's the standard that we are following here. But we haven't done completing the sofa. So what we are going to do, let us complete the sofa. So for the long cost, what is the ultimate aim of all this discussion? If you remember, we are going to decorate a living room. A customer is going to decorate some rooms of his home, and he wants to know the cost. So we have what we need to do, we need to, when this sofa is used as a decorator to decorate a particular room, what is the cost incurred, the total cost. So what we are going to do, this sofa will have a cost incurred. So let us give maybe some 2000 as an amount of cost for this particular sofa, and then plus what we are going to do, the cost of the room itself. Of course, if you remember, the room also has a cost associated with it. For example, if you look at this particular living room, you can see that it has a 10,000 associated with it. Again, we are not going into the specific of the denominations that we are using, just some amount. That's all we are trying to display here. So 10,000 is the amount for constructing a living room. If we decorate this living room with a sofa, then that's what we are trying to calculate here inside the cost method. So 2000 is the cost of this sofa, plus when somebody calls the cost method, this is the value 2000 plus the amount of the living room. That's what we are trying to capture here. And so is the description. So what we are going to do inside this particular description, we are going to return the room dot get description. Along with it, we are going to specify sofa. We will see why I am coding like this, because we want to see that how exactly the output is going to come. So what is the amount for decorating a particular living room with a sofa and something else? It will be displayed that first living room will come, then plus you can then a comma will come, then a sofa will come, and what will be the cost? We are going to calculate the total cost of this sofa plus the whatever the room that we used to decorate. For example, if it is a living room, I think it is some 10,000. If it is a study room, it is 5,000, like this. So we want to get a display of that particular. So let us complete the sofa. That's all there is to it. We have completed the sofa. Let us do one more decoration. What can be? Let me just copy paste so that to save some time. Let me give an almirah for the second decorator. Again, the decorator is almirah. Let us give some 3000 as a count, and then the name will be almirah, something like that. So we have two decorators, and we have two decorators. One is the almirah, and the second thing is the sofa. Now it is time to see whether the decorator is working fine. So we go back to the main method. We have already created the living room. We have decorated the living room with the sofa. And then what we are going to do, we are going to decorate the living room that is already decorated with the sofa with an almirah, and then we will pass in that particular decorator like so. So what we are trying to do here, the same decorator. We are using the same decorator here, and then we are putting decorator is equal to new almirah and passing in the decorator. We are able to do that because if you look at the sofa, what is the type of this sofa? The type of this particular sofa is room decorator. What is the type of this room decorator? It is room. If you remember, if you go back in the video where we were discussing the decorator as well as the type that we are decorating should be of the same type. So we are decorating a room. So the decorator should be of the same type. That's what we have achieved here. Why we did that? Because we can go on decorating. So you can see here, first we created the room, which is with the living room, which is of type room, and then we decorated it with a sofa. What is the exact type? Of course, we just gave room decorator. We could have easily given room just to distinguish between these two. This is the room decorator. And then what we are trying to do, we are again decorating that particular decorator with an almirah. passing in that particular decorator. That means what is this particular decorator instance pointing to? Pointing to a sofa which has already wrapped the living room. We are again adding one more decorator, almirah, to that particular decorator. So we are actually wrapping this almirah with that has already been decorated with sofa and which is decorating the living room. And now let us print it out, and then we are going to use decorator dot get description, and then let us give a space like so, maybe a dollar symbol to just to depict the amount, plus the decorator dot cost. This actually completes our coding. So if you run this, what is the output that we are expecting? So let us see, before we run, what is the flow of the application. So it will call the get description. So which is the instance that is pointed to by this particular decorator reference variable in the heap? It is the almirah. So it will call the get description of the almirah. So you can see here it calls the room.getDescription first, which is the room instance that is pointing to inside the almirah. If you go back to the main, you can see this particular decorator, which is the sofa. So the get description inside the almirah will first call the room.getDescription, that is the sofa.getDescription. The same thing happens inside the sofa.getDescription. It is past the living room, so it calls the living room's get description. What exactly is in the living room? So first it will print out living room, then comes sofa, because this is where the living room will appear, then comes sofa, then comes almirah. Why? Because that's the way we used these decorators. And then that's the same with the cost too. How will the cost be calculated? It will first call the decorator of almirah. What exactly is the cost of the almirah? So you can see here it is 3,000. Plus it will add the cost of the room that is been composed of. The almirah is composed of sofa. So again it will add 3,000 plus 2,000, that is 5,000. Again the same thing happens, it calls the room.cost. So because in the main the sofa is composed of the living room, it will call the living room, that is 10,000. So if we run the application, we should be getting an output of 15,000 as a total. Let us see whether our discussion and the coding has been successful or not. Of course, you can see here, first the living room came because that was the room that we wanted to decorate. We decorated it with a sofa first, and then we decorated it with an almirah. So that's the way we coded. And then, of course, what exactly is the cost? So it calculated the total cost starting from the last decorator that we added, going to the top, and then going to the top living room, added the amount, and we got the output. This is the decorator pattern for you. So again, I hope my explanation has been simple. Next we will see then where exactly do we use these decorator, and is it being used already? Let us wind up our discussion of the decorator pattern with a definition. As we have already seen, the first thing we need to understand is where are we going to use this particular pattern. If there is a need to add responsibility to an existing object dynamically, then we use the decorator pattern. When I say giving additional responsibility, just look at the example that we just had. Living room had some responsibility. In our case, it has a description as a value, and some cost associated with it. And then we decorated that living room with a sofa. It brought its own responsibility or behavior. What was the behavior? It added its own cost, and then it had its own description too. The same goes with the almirah too. So we can add responsibility to an existing object dynamically. So if you are asking me about a definition, this is the simplest of definitions. It attaches additional responsibility to an object dynamically. So only two principles that we need to remember. The two things that we need to do or to remember: the decorator as well as the decorator object should be of the same type. The second thing, the decorator object should be wrapped in the decorator. If you know these two principles, then that's what the decorator pattern is all about. The last thing to discuss is it being used already in any library that we have? Obviously. If you look at the input-output library, the JDK brings to the table, you can see in the file system, the file system is wrapped with a buffer, so that when the file is read from the disk, to speed up the process, it will be returned to the buffer, from where the application will read the contents of the file. So you can see here the file input-output stream is decorated with a buffered input-output stream. This is one of the examples that I can give. Hope my exploration of the decorator was satisfactory. I agree that it will need some time to get used to, but of course, after some practice, you will get there. So thanks for watching.